I'm going to talk a little bit about forbearance, a little about options of what borrowers do when they can't afford their full loan payment. What are the possible options? What are errors people commit along the way? And then what are the results of those errors, right? Because I think it's really important to understand the results of those errors and what occurs from what we have seen here at LoanSense. Do us a huge favor. If you find this content helpful, subscribe, like, and share. So first and foremost, let's go into number one. What is forbearance? So forbearance is an action borrowers take, like you stop making any type of loan payment. You stop entirely. Like, for example, legitimately offered by like the government themselves, along with programs. Like if you're a doctor, you go into residency, they offer you the option of going into forbearance. Or if you're going to serve in the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps, they offer you an option to go into forbearance. Okay, I remember serving in the Peace Corps and it was an option offered to me. Like just put your student loans into forbearance. And a lot of my peers took that option so they didn't have to worry about payments for 2 years. What are the repercussions of putting your loan into forbearance, even though it's officially offered by legitimate programs like residency, internships, and service positions, right? The implications that these programs don't understand is that by putting your student loans into forbearance, you can't get that time counted towards any form of loan forgiveness. So for example, if you go serve in the Peace Corps or you go do fellowship in residency, those are government and nonprofit entities, which that time that you're in Peace Corps for 2 years, or you're doing residency for 2, 3, 4 years, and then fellowship for another 2 for some people, that's 6 years, all that time can be counted towards loan forgiveness. So the error of putting your loans into forbearance because you're saying I can't afford to pay is that all that time you're spending serving in the Peace Corps, doing residency, doing an internship, whatever it is time that doesn't count towards loan forgiveness. It's very harmful. And of course, the implications are that now you have to extend your loan payment for an additional 6 years when you could have just gotten that time counted, right, towards your 120 payments of loan forgiveness. I want to break down why that can be harmful really quickly. Because like the implications, let's say the options, you go into an income-driven repayment plan in lieu of forbearance. What that means is, let's say you go into residency and you earn, I don't know, let's say $4,000 a month, so you can't afford a $3,000 monthly student loan payment, for example, then they'll calculate your payment off of your residency or your fellowship income. If you're a Peace Corps volunteer and you're only making $200 equivalent annually, then your payment will be $0, which is like the equivalent of not paying anyways, right? So going into forbearance isn't necessarily even a more advantageous from a payment standpoint. It just literally means you're now put in a status where they can't count that time towards a payment. It's better to enroll into an income-driven repayment plan and get your payment reduced pretty significantly or all the way down to zero based on what your income is. For most people, the income-driven program, while they're for the most part, most people, the income-driven program will put their payment down to zero, effectively doing the same thing as forbearance, okay? So the number one huge no-no for anybody, no matter what, is don't put yourself into forbearance. It's always better to put yourself into an income-driven repayment plan. People ask, well, what if I don't know if I'm going to work for the government or for a nonprofit after that? The answer is it still does not matter if you don't know. It's better to put yourself into an income-driven repayment plan, because in the event that you do go work for a nonprofit, then you have all those years counted. In the event you go work for the private sector, I mean, it doesn't matter, because let's say you go to the private sector for 2 years and you decide you want to come back into nonprofit or government work, you will continue to accrue 120 payments for the time you work for a public service entity, which is defined as a nonprofit or government. So I wanted to talk really briefly about forbearance from that standpoint, okay? I'm going to take a drink now. I love that you all watched me take a drink. I get very amped up about these topics. So what people do real quick, when they go into forbearance and don't get these payments counted, another huge big error that loan servicers make is when you enter into forbearance or you don't pay, whether it's because you're in grace period or whatever status, they mistakenly count this time that you're not paying as non-payments, and it literally dings your credit report, which is horribly negative because let's say you have 10 student loans you took out over the course of your undergrad, for example, because it's possible to take out 2 to 3 every semester between subsidized, unsubsidized loans, some Perkins loans, whatever. And then they report a late payment. Well, it's not just one late payment. It's a late payment for every single loan you've amortized. So I'm sorry, that you originated, every loan you've originated. So let's say you took out 10 loans for undergrad, then that literally means 10 late payments or 10 non-payments. So it's really important that when you enter whatever status you enter into with your student loans, to make sure your loan servicer is reporting whatever status you're in correctly to the credit reporting agencies, because that could lead to direct credit hits. And then when you go try to buy a house or do other things with your student loans, you have all these negative and derogatory items on your credit report, which is horrible because if you want to buy a house and you have a month to close on the house, you don't have time to go dispute your credit, right? By the way, a dispute is not something you do to the credit bureaus in the instance of your student loans. With student loans, you do disputes directly to the loan servicer, right? It takes the loan servicer a long time to respond to anything. So I would recommend that you check your credit at annualcreditreport.com and make sure your loan servicer is reporting the right on-time payments for your student loans, and do that at least on an annual basis. Otherwise, they could be mistakenly reporting non-payments or late payments when you made them on time. And it's pretty common, especially as we move from this administrative forbearance to on-time payments. Make sure they're not reporting this last 18 months or so as non-payments, okay? Because that we've seen it happen on several people's credit reports, or if you pay extra ahead of time, even though you did a good deed and you did yourself a favor, the credit reporting, these servicers are reporting to the credit report that you're not making payments, which is inaccurate. So it's really important that you check your credit report. It's really important to understand not to go into forbearance if it's not necessary, especially when you can get your payment reduced anyways. And lastly, understand the implications of every action with your student loan, and don't assume your loan servicer is going to track things properly, is going to report things accurately, and you as a borrower must do these things and keep these servicers in check. They're all getting sued for all types of issues with student loan management. So we're here to warn you, to give you the best practices and answers to best manage your student loan. So we hope this was helpful. Do us a huge favor. If you find this content helpful, subscribe, like, and share. Please leave a comment below. Are there any questions I didn't answer about forbearance? Has there been any issues you have encountered? Any ideas for content you would like us to create and speak to? We are 100% open to your feedback.